Welcome to the Hillbilly Toolbox. I'm fixing a 181 Husqvarna chainsaw that's not oiling. I'm going to be replacing it with a brass worm gear. The one that's in there now is a plastic vinyl type. If you plan on putting one of those back in, you can follow the same process. I'm going to have to make some modifications. Modifications are because the original had a metal cap that sealed it, and this doesn't have that cap on it anymore. It'll be more obvious as I do it what I'm talking about. Anyway, like, subscribe, share. I hope this helps you out. It's a pretty straightforward process. This is a Husky 181. I'm going to change the worm gear because the worm gear keeps stripping out. I found a brass one to replace the plastic vinyl or whatever it's made of that keeps stripping out. So in order to get at it, you have to start by taking this off and then taking your bar and chain off. Now if your saw isn't oiling, you see here there's a spacer that sits on top of here, and that's where the oil comes out. So you should make sure that's clean. Now what lines up with that spacer, and this bar that has it on both sides, but there's a little hole. And that hole can get plugged up with sawdust. So on this saw, it would be on the one that's was up against that slot is on this side, and it opens up on the inside of the slot the chain runs in. That also can get plugged. Now to get this off, I have to turn this nut. This nut is part of the clutch system here, and it turns backwards to come off. In order to stop the motor from turning, while I break that free, I take the spark plug out and I'll shove a piece of rope in it and then turn it till the piston pushes up against the rope, and then I'll crack that free. Do not try to jam the flywheel fins on the other side of the motor. If you do that, you'll just break them off. You can also get a tool that will turn in where the spark plug goes, the piston will rest up against, and it'll provide that stop for you so you can crank on this and not turn the motor over. So I've shoved in some rope off of an old recoil. It's pretty tough rope. You want something that's not going to fray, because you don't want anything getting caught when the piston moves, and it might get jammed in the exhaust port or something. So once that's in there, and you're convinced you have about as much as you can get in there, you now turn that until it jams, and then break it free and take it off. So I've broken it free, and you turn it backwards. Until it comes off. This is your drive for your chain. So you want to take a look at that, make sure it's in good shape. And this piece right here is the old worm gear. So I'm going to see if I can just pry that out, if it'll come out easy. And maybe I don't have to take off the actual pump. And I should take that bearing off. Just pulls off. So this is definitely chewed up. You could actually see where it's piled up, the pieces of the thread that come off it. And you can also see right here on that spindle gear, sits this way. When this shaft turns, it turns the worm gear, which has a screw-like thread on it, which then turns this spindle gear, which moves a piston back and forth to pump the oil. And it's all piled up with the pieces of the old worm gear. You can see all that crud sitting on there. You see me break it away, and you can actually see the spindles on that gear there. So here it is, the brass one, and I don't know if you can see, but as I turn this, you can see that this spindle turns. So that's how that works. This is driven by the shaft here. When you put this on, because as you can see, it has the slots here that grab onto that. Now the difference is this does not match the original piece. The original piece, by the looks of it, had some kind of a cap that sat, you can see the ridge all the way around, that sat on top to keep garbage out. So I don't have that cap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this. I'm going to cut it up and get it to fit, so it will fit over top of this. And with any luck, I'll be able to at least get it sealed up so that it doesn't fill up full of sawdust and garbage, which will interfere with the actual pump. So let's get working on that. So I cut the old worm gear to make essentially a washer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this sparkling clean with brake cleaner. Start with soap and water, go to brake cleaner. I'm going to put this in place. This little washer sits inside to sit on top of the seal so that this doesn't rub on the seal in here. Once I have this in place and it's clean, and this is clean, I'm going to set it in place. I'm going to put JB weld around the outside edge to attach this to this. And that will replace that cap, which I'm going to assume will be extremely hard to find. I made a washer to set inside on the bottom where that other washer was to space up the brass piece, and I'm going to put the little washer on top of this. Then I'll put the brass piece in, and then I'll put in that cap, and I will JB weld just along the outside edge of it so it meets the cap, because the cap will spin with it, and that should seal it to keep the garbage out. So I've got that JB welded in there, and as you can see, it's all moving as one piece. If I can do this here. So now let's just put the saw back together. Alright, so I put a little bit of grease on these needle bearings. Drop them back on there. Now, I'm going to put the drive back on. It's going to want to fall off, so. Remember, it turns backwards. Wiggle it a few times to make sure the cogs line up. Yeah, it's turning. Now all I have to do is crank it tight, pull the rope out, put it back together. Before you put your plug back in, you can crank it over with the wrench, and you should see oil come out of that hole. As you can see, mine is moving oil now. So it looks like I've got this fixed. So an inspection of this channel that the oil goes through shows that it's pretty dirty. So blast with some WD-40, clears it out, and should work. I hope this was helpful. If you've got this far, you've got to hit like. Come on, you've committed right to the end. Hit like, hit like.